a few months back, just before E3 of 2018, I decided to finally finish my year-old playthrough of Fallout New Vegas, after failing several attempts due to what can only be described as game-breaking bugs. I was about halfway through the game when Fallout 76 was announced, and I thought to myself, wow, I have to make something about this. So, in preparation for the new direction the series seemed to be taking, I began writing a retrospective on Fallout New Vegas. I was about halfway done with the script when the beta launched, and I thought to myself, holy shit, a video on New Vegas is going to be more important now than ever. So I began editing this video, and about halfway through that, my previous statement was proven incredibly wrong. As the Fallout franchise appeared to devolve further and further into frustrating modern trends, and the RPG genre lost yet another beloved franchise to the AAA gaming machine, Obsidian announced The Outer Worlds, a Fallout-style RPG just after Bethesda's biggest blunder to date. Ouch! And it appears to be trying to capture that same lightning in a bottle that New Vegas captured almost a decade ago. So now I will be looking at the best RPG in the Fallout franchise. No, Fallout 3 has aged incredibly poorly. And perhaps out of bitterness, I refuse to play Fallout 2 ever again. No, I'm here to talk about a Fallout game that tried to be something more than just a good time. A great game that fell just short of perfection. Now before I jump into this, let me address a complaint that will most certainly come up.
You just think that Bethesda Fallouts are bad!
I really want to make it clear that I don't think any of the Fallout games are entirely bad. Even 76 has some good moments. My hours in Fallout 4 alone are a testament to how good the game really is, and I don't think anything I say here should keep you from enjoying these games. It certainly won't keep me from playing them. And just in case if that isn't enough to convince you, immune to criticism. Alright, Fallout New Vegas. What does it do so well that I hope to see in the Outer Worlds and any other RPG really? Now, with most games, I mainly look at gameplay when discerning its quality because gameplay should always come before story.
Would you be so kind as to deliver the frost salts for me? I'm sure.
Now that I've put out my #1 biggest rule, allow me to immediately discredit myself by saying that New Vegas is one big exception to that rule. No one is playing this game for the game. They play it for the story, and this game's story is top of the line. I've chalked this game's story being so good up to two things: world building and choices. World building is something that when done right should be invisible, and with everyone's favorite punching bag Fallout 3, the exact opposite is true. Let's take Megaton for example. They built their town around a bomb. For aesthetic purposes, I'll let that one slide. But how does it fare in the world building department? For food, they have no farms, no crops, just a single Brahmin outside the doctor's office. For security, they have one Protectron, a dude with a hunting rifle, and Sheriff Dumbass.
You're about to get an education in wasteland justice.
I know. It's been a long time coming. Good.
You've made a grief.
There are raider camps in every direction out of town, with no single clear trade route to any other settlement. I couldn't find any generators or power lines, so all of this light is bullshit. And the town's water supply seems to be directly pumped up out of the ground. Allow me to say that one more time. The town's water is pumped out of the ground, in a city where a bomb serves as the centerpiece. Mind you, this is all in a game where finding a clean water source is the driving force behind the entire plot. Now let's look at how New Vegas does it. Every settlement, large and small, has a clear water source. Food sources range from hunting and raising animals in Good Springs to the massive sharecropper farms outside of Vegas. Trade routes are tangible roads that the player has to follow themselves. And power. The game's biggest plot point is explained through Hoover Dam and Helios 1. They had all of this shit planned out from the opening cutscene to the final narration. And let me tell you that none of this reflects well on Bethesda and their approach.
Hey, Pete Hines, why does Fallout 4 break pre-established lore?
I'm not the lore guy. Alright, on to the big one. Player choice. The good, the bad, and everything in between. Let me show you how Bethesda designs their player choices. Pretty much all of Fallout 3's player choices can be summed up by this one exchange when you first meet a ghoul. You can say, "Stuff it, ghoul, and stop looking at me." Or, live in a town that is a world-building nightmare, or nuke it. Help an orphan child find a home, or sell him into slavery. Blow up a fascist military organization, or the literal knights in shining armor. Poison everyone in the wasteland, destroying your father's one and only legacy. Or don't! There are rarely neutral options in 3, making neutral playthroughs feel more bipolar than anything else.
You've got a bright future ahead of you, son.
Hey there.
In New Vegas, karma is rarely assigned to the player, and each quest has several different choices to make, meaning that a player's actions are not defined by arbitrary good or bad labels, but rather what the player thinks is best for their character. Let's take the quest Still in the Dark, for example, where in order to gain the Brotherhood of Steel's trust...
You don't seem to understand how close you are to being erased from existence.
You have to get an NCR Ranger to leave the area in whichever way you see best. An extremely simple task that really stood out to me in execution. You can, of course, kill him, convince him to leave using a high speech skill or good NCR standing, smash his radio making him leave, rig his radio to explode, which has some fucking hilarious dialogue.
Well, at least you're man enough to admit it. Now get the hell out of here. I've been trying to get that damn thing working for days. And you think you fixed it in a few minutes? Let me see that.
Or tell him about the Brotherhood, causing a nearly unsurvivable death squad of paladins to ambush you. That's just a minor side quest. The whole game is filled to the brim with these incredibly deep choices for the most minor of things. It's amazing! So if the game is this amazing to me, then why is this video called Almost Perfect? Oh my god, what a shit show! Aside from the great additions of a hardcore mode and iron sight aiming, this game's combat has some seriously big issues. Enemies take several shots to the head without even flinching, making all guns feel like pea shooters. Inconsistent damage, especially with shotguns, almost adds an element of RNG to the game. And I think we all know how I feel about that.
You have perished.
Melee and unarmed weapons are near useless early game, and 10% of the time the VAT system will break, leaving you standing there like a deer in the headlights while enemies just wail on you. And on top of all of this, combat is not a rare occurrence. In the DLCs especially, combat starts to feel like a chore more than anything. And there's almost always a breaking point for me where I just turn it down to very easy and sleepwalk through the game. And that should not have been the point. Worst of all, these are all issues that plagued Fallout 3, and both games' combat systems are pretty much broken. And speaking of broken... When Obsidian was tasked with making New Vegas, they used Bethesda's engine Gamebryo, which was already outdated 8 years ago.
I forbid you to die. Do you hear me?
Leading to many of the uncanny valley issues, shitty graphics even for 2010, and the constant crashing and frame rate issues that border on game-breaking, especially on PS3. But all of these issues were nothing when it came to glitches and bugs. Some small, some funny, some big, and some not funny at all. On my most recent playthrough of the game, I was going for an NCR ending, and I came to the point in the quest where I had to investigate and take down the Omertas. In order to initiate the quest, I had to speak to the NCR receptionist, who in turn would direct me to the receptionist of the Omertas for information. I figured I'd just skip the first step and talk to the Omerta's receptionist first. Oh yeah. The quest continued on normally, so I didn't see anything wrong with overwriting my previous saves. I solved the Omerta problem, killed Big Sal and Nero, installed Caccino, and boogied on down to Colonel Moore at the dam, so smug thinking I had knocked another quest underneath my belt. Well, when I tried to talk to Moore, she wouldn't respond or initiate any dialogue. She just stared at me with those lifeless eyes.
Black eye, like a doll's eye.
I didn't seem to be able to turn in the quest, and I couldn't load back, so I looked it up on the internet. Turns out, by not talking to the NCR receptionist, I had completely bugged myself out of that quest and permanently locked myself out of the NCR ending, losing 80 hours of progress. Sure, I could have gone with the S-Man ending, but the whole character was based around the NCR, so... I started a new game, and this time not overwriting a single save and putting in the 148 hours required to beat the game and all of its DLCs. I apologize for the tangent, but I wanted to demonstrate how broken this game is, that 9 years after its release, there are still game-breaking bugs littering the main storyline. How did a game with such an amazing story, superb art design, memorable characters, terrific music, and a believable world fuck up everything else so badly? Oh shit. Alright, story time. The Fallout series was created by a little company called Interplay. Due to Fallout being more of an underground game with hardly any sales at all, and a ton of poor management, Interplay had to shut down. During this process, Bethesda bought and acquired the rights to the Fallout franchise, making Fallout 3, and with it millions upon millions of dollars. Bethesda, wanting to focus its time on future money singularity Skyrim, outsourced the making of another Fallout game to Obsidian, made up of the former members of Interplay, mind you, in order to hold over fans of the series. Obsidian was allowed to use Bethesda's Gamebryo engine, and were told that they would be paid royalties only if their Fallout game received an 85 or above on Metacritic. That sounds simple enough. These are talented game developers, and 85 should not be out of their reach. How long was Fallout 3's development time? 6 years? Alright, well given that Obsidian didn't have to make a new engine, they should be able to get there. How long was their development time? A year. Allow me to say that one more time. A year. You know that piece of shit game, The Order 1886? That game had a development time of 5 fucking years. Remember Resident Evil Outbreak? Of course you don't. Nobody does.
Calm down. You must give me your blood.
That game had 4.5 years to be made. Fucking Duke Nukem Forever had 14 years in game development. I can't even make this video in a year. Who expected Obsidian to make a full game in just 18 months? Well, did they at least get their royalties? And with that, Obsidian failed to earn any of the royalties because of a single percentage point. Many of the developers who created Fallout left the company one way or another, and Bethesda now only produces in-house Fallout titles. Contrary to how some may see it, New Vegas wasn't made to show up any of the other Fallouts. Like it said in the game. Okay, look, I don't actually have the dialogue for this part, and I'm not going to replay the Legend of the Star Quest for it, so you just bear with me here. Long ago, people didn't have a whole heap of choices when it came to soft drinks. It was either water or Nuka-Cola. Now, the threat of legal action forces me to say that Nuka-Cola is a swell beverage. But sometimes people just wanted something different, you know? And that's the Legend of the Star. Hope you enjoyed it. And I hope you continue to enjoy the taste of sunset. Bethesda is now going down a very different road than the one Fallout started on. And while some people may love the flavor that they go for in their games, the people who loved what Obsidian was able to make will probably never see another game like the unfinished one they got so many years ago. That's what I originally had written, and just a few weeks after I wrote it, The Outer Worlds was announced. I truly hope they are able to build a world as amazing as New Vegas is. So rarely does a game leave me feeling emotionally fulfilled at the end of it, with characters I'm attached to going through emotional arcs, unresolved plots being brought back from the previous games and given true resolution, and all while giving me the choice of being a peacemaker or an agent of chaos. I was not ready for the emotional sucker punch this game delivered to me with the ending credits music, and maybe the developers themselves didn't expect to either, but this game has a way of sucking you into its world. And by the end, I couldn't believe how hard it was to say goodbye to it all. This game feels like the final entry in a trilogy rather than some spin-off title, and it was truly something more. Something nearly perfect. Whew! There it is. After pouring so many hours in, I finally have made my retrospective of Fallout New Vegas. Being that this is my first video in this format, I really hope you enjoyed it, and I cannot thank you enough for sticking with the video this long. New Vegas was a game that I honestly didn't like when I was growing up, and it was only after learning about the first two Fallout games and playing it through again with a new lens that I saw this game for how much of a love letter it is to Fallout fans. The admiration and respect given to the source material comes through in every frame. And if you feel the same way I once thought about this game, then I hope that this video could at least convince you to try it one more time, and give it the same chance to amaze you like it did for me. Overall, I'm sad to see how Bethesda has been handling the rights to this franchise, but I was completely struck by the absolute perfect timing of the Outer Worlds, and I think Obsidian now has the chance to right the mistakes of New Vegas, and I know that after Fallout 76's backlash, there is an audience for a true RPG right now, and we will be waiting for one.